Welcome to Tech Talk with Jared Yellin. I'm so excited to have our NASDAQ community with us. We have two exceptional entrepreneurs in the studio with us right here, right now, who bring a depth and breadth of experience in tech that's just unmatched. And you're about to learn what they did to get to where they are, what they learned on their journey, what would they have done completely differently, and things that you should be looking for. The reason we host this show with our NASDAQ community is because we were told you want to begin investing in early stage tech. You want to start uncovering some of the greatest ideas before anyone else. And these two entrepreneurs have some exceptional opportunities for you. So, Jen and Steve, thank you so much for being here, traveling out to the studio. Jen, let's start with you.
Yeah.
When did you realize you were unemployable? When you're like, I am going all in on this game called entrepreneurship. What was that for you?
I think day one.
Yeah. Tell me, what led to that? Like, what was that moment for you?
You know, I think it was more just wanting to change the world, right? And how do I do that? And the crazy ideas that I have that kind of go through my brain.
Yeah.
I knew that I was going to have to be in charge of myself and my destiny and
That's
not
awesome.
kind of get in the line. So.
What was the first thing you executed on? So when you had this realization, there was like something like, did you start like selling like lemonade stand? Like what was that first thing?
Actually, I started selling used cars.
Did you? Tell me. Yeah.
So yeah, I got into the auto industry. I got hired at 17, and they hired me just kind of on the point. My aunt was the hot dog lady at the events, and she called me one day and she said, "Hey, get down here. They're looking for salespeople for the summer. You should, come down and check it out." So I stopped in. They hired me. They didn't realize I was 17, so I had to cold call in the back of the office before, until I was 18. And on my 18th birthday, I started selling cars, and
It's the greatest place to start, right? Learning how to sell. Like I tell everybody, like they got to do door-to-door sales or cold calling at some point in their life. Because when you can learn how to use your words to create something that people can execute on, it's everything. So Steve, you're a parallel entrepreneur. Like you run many things at the same time. When did you realize you could? Some people say just focus on one thing. You and I are the same in the sense that we focus on many things and it actually serves us. When did you realize that for yourself?
So I grew up on a dairy farm in Connecticut, and I realized that wasn't my future. I loved to work, but at the time that I spent on the dairy farm, you're always solving for a problem.
Yeah.
You're always trying to figure a better way, a way of getting literally, that situation to be fixed quickly, and so you can get on to the next. There's always projects. I call it farm life, right?
Yeah.
So I realized at a young age, probably in my teens, that was what I was going to do. I was going to go out and like Jen, I got involved in the car industry early on, 19 years old, started selling cars, and fortunately for me, my work ethic was, a lot of passion, a lot of drive from that, but my work ethic was always far superior from growing up on the farm 7 days a week, 12, 14 hours a day, and so I worked my way to where I got to.
That's awesome. So what was the first entrepreneurial endeavor that you pursued?
I would say probably the first one I ever really got into was how to really not make the consumer come to a dealership.
Cool.
Early on, I started going to all these meetings, and I would go to all these groups and hospitals and businesses, and I would start my own VIP, process at 19, 20 years old. You don't have to come to the dealership. I'll bring the car to you.
Wow.
You don't have to, you can come. I'll bring it to your country club. I'll bring it to your home. I'll service it. I'll get it serviced, and that's how I grew and built my business model around that.
That is fascinating. So what did people think that was so different, right? What a different model at that time. So how did people feel about that experience?
Well, everybody told me it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
My experience at 18 years old buying a new pickup truck, having the transmission go in the pickup truck, and being told, this is the way the car business is. And the dealer actually challenged me to get into the car business. Said, if you think you can do it different, then do it. So I called it car buying your way. That was probably my first venture into giving a consumer what they wanted, making it frictionless, and making it easy for them. And I was told by everyone along the way, we just don't do it that way. That's not the way the business does it. I'm like, okay, well, it's the way I'm going to do it.
Wow. So going from automotive to tech, how did that happen for you, Jen? So like you start making these cold calls, you're in the dealership selling used cars, and now you're a tech entrepreneur, right? Like when did that happen? What was that evolution?
I met a man by the name of Al Zolker, who is the president of Widget, and he reached out to me through some mutual friends, and he said, if get a hold of Jen, she will get you in touch with the right people. Like we were talking, I'm not actually techie.
Yeah.
I'm just a people person. Obviously, I believe fully in where the world is going with tech, and to be involved is going to be necessary, I think, for all of us to stay relevant. So, I met him, and we decided to kind of start chatting about what it is he was doing with Widget. And I just saw so many avenues, and I said, I'm in. Let's go.
That is so exciting. So how long ago was that? How long ago?
3 years.
Wow. So what is Widget? Like, to whatever degree you can share, what is Widget? What problem is it solving? What's the moonshot with this thing?
So it's a communication-based platform that we embed in images, calling, texting. It's image-based communication for all industries.
And what's the moonshot now? How do you guys know you made it? Like, you've done an exceptional job. The product, the platform's amazing.
Yeah.
You've attracted some exceptional investors to support it.
Yeah.
You have an amazing team.
Right.
What's the it? Like, what's that thing that you're striving for?
Just to be a global communication platform.
Yeah.
That's the big.
What do you see it disrupting? Because one of the things that we look for with anyone that comes to us with a tech idea, whether it's on a napkin or it's a minimum viable product, is like, what are you changing? Like if we're just going to be more of the status quo, like there probably isn't worth pursuing, right?
Yeah,
so what's
100%.
like the transformation?
100%. My aha moment for me was with Widget was I was president of an ad agency, part owner of an agency, and I was sitting in a meeting with all these 20-something super intelligent social media gurus, and they're showing me crazy creative, and they're showing me crazy, ads and stuff, and there's 6-7 second bumper ads, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at that, and I said, well, let me just have this phenomenal work, great job. There's like 30 of them in the room. Let me ask you a question. How does it convert? How does it engage, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, what? And I'm like, well, give me some KPIs, give me some results. And so in my world, it's relevance, results, ROI or ROAS,
Love it.
and then turnkey, right? And so I said, show me one of those 4 pillars. Please show me all 4 if you can.
Yeah.
And they couldn't. They said to me, the issue is it's too short, there's no call to action, you can't engage your customer, but yet you're branding, they're seeing your stuff. And I'm like, no, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
So Widget is able to take an image. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. We've heard that a million times in our life, right? Well, if you can communicate through that image, that picture, and you can engage somebody, and you hit, in my world, the other 4 pillars, which is engagement, then they convert, then you're able to get their data.
Yeah.
And then we measure attribution. So when I looked at Widget, when it was brought to me, and I was already working on another parallel through a texting platform with another company, a tech company I'm involved with. When I saw it, I'm like, this checks all the boxes.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So it gives somebody the ability of business to get what they need out of it, right? But most important is seamless and it's frictionless for the consumer. And it gives the consumer the ability to communicate the way they want, when they want, and quite frankly, like, look at beautiful pictures doing it.
That's awesome. So what's been the biggest challenge to date with this incredible company, and how did you overcome that challenge? That's one of the things that our NASDAQ audience is always curious about, is how does the entrepreneur deal with friction? How do they deal with those moments where they're like, oh my goodness, like, where do I go from here? So what was that moment for you guys in your journey, and how did you overcome it?
I can probably, you want to answer?
Yeah, no, I think we're going to say the same, so you go.
I think with any new concept, any new solution, tech product, whatever, you have to educate everybody.
Yeah.
So I think the toughest thing for us has been, how do we educate not just the businesses, right, who we're obviously selling to, but the consumers to utilize it, right? And so I think that's been a challenge, but we're getting over that, because once they see it,
then it's
like this is what I want to do from now on.
That's exciting. So when you started fundraising, what were some of the reasons why investors were excited? Like, what about the opportunity? Was it the team? Was it the solution? Was it the size of the market? Was it all of the above? Our NASDAQ audience looks to invest in early stage tech. So what were some of the things that investors were looking at when they said yes?
I would say all of the above. I mean, we have a wonderful team. We have 2 dev teams running, 24 hours. So we have a really, really great backing. But really, it's just, it solves a big need. I mean, there's, and it's maybe a need that I don't think people necessarily recognize, like, out front, like Steve is saying, that it's hard to explain, but when they see it, they go, oh, well, yeah, I would much rather communicate directly, and we can go one-on-one. We don't need phone numbers. We don't need, you don't have to fill out a form. It's direct communication. And if you think about the industries across just every industry, there's a need for that communication that's frictionless, that's not asking you all these questions, trying to get all of your information, because we don't want to give that.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's been neat. And then the attribution piece, when they see, when the investors see what the end result, that all the data that we can provide, and that you can actually see where did this, whether it's a client or whatever industry you're in, where did they come from? Where do I spend my money?
Yeah.
As a business owner, where do I put my money? We kind of throw it out there and hope that it produces, yields results, and we haven't been able to kind of have that attribution piece. So
I think the cool thing about is most of us come from the automotive sector. And or the marketing and advertising sector. And so for me, we're everything to everybody. We're in every single vertical there is. It can be a nonprofit, it can be in education, everywhere. So it applies everywhere. So what's fun about it is you're solving for issues for every single vertical there is when it comes to communication, and we're able to do that. The other thing is very interesting is we're really under the guidelines of the First Amendment.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to ask.
Yeah, so that's something that's very interesting, because at the end of the day, then we open ourselves up to even more where companies have been, or industries have been scrutinized by whether it's the federal government, local law, whatever it is. We're able to give them a way to communicate without being in that, under those guidelines.
That's fascinating.
The cannabis industry specifically, right?
I was going to say, it's
that's a big
use case.
Yeah, that's one of our big clients is the cannabis, because getting around exactly that. I mean, we're able to get around it. So it's
really fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I always talk about in a market, there's these two extremes. There's the red ocean, which is this really competitive market, and red oceans are usually a race to the bottom, because it's just about outspending everybody else around you. And in the end, almost no one wins, because they're just like undercutting and spending more, and it hurts really that market. The other extreme is the blue ocean, which usually is risky territory, because what a blue ocean represents is an audience that doesn't even necessarily know there's an inefficiency or a problem. So you have to first educate them on, hey, this is an inefficiency that you're experiencing, and then educate them on your solution to the inefficiency. The middle ground is the pink ocean, where there's an end user who knows there's something off. It's just suboptimal. I need a solution. They just haven't found one. So either they're duct taping something together, or they're doing nothing. And I really believe that there might be elements of this that are blue, but with the right team, which you guys are, you're educating them very well, but you're in that pink ocean territory where people are like, there has to be a way to have more calculated, objective data to make decisions as a business. Are you finding that when you're speaking to industries or companies that are going to embrace this platform, where they like, wow, like where has this been? Because it's also demonstrable too, so you can like show it. But like, what is that light bulb moment for them?
So I would speak to that from the advertising marketing side of it.
Yeah, that's what I figured, yeah.
So very interesting. You ask somebody, oh, I don't like email. Oh, I don't like texting. I don't like chat. I don't like phone calls. And people are like all over it. Everybody doesn't like something about communication.
Yeah.
But what they like is something new and is frictionless, and quite frankly is able to get them where they want to go to as quick as possible, one-to-one, right? And so what's interesting to me is that when we show them this, they're like, well, why hasn't this been done before? So the need is there, the want is there, the desire is there for that type of communication, which is great. But most importantly is the attribution side of it, and certainly the ability to know what's bringing the people in. That's been a challenge in the advertising marketing business forever. Obviously, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and when we're able to prove out the attribution and show a business what's working, what's not working, it's powerful.
That is so exciting.
Pivot very quickly.
And Jen, you mentioned you're like a connector, right?
Yeah.
Like you're a people person. And to me, that's always like the most valuable person on a team, because one relationship could mean everything, right? Like one introduction could be 7 figures or 8 figures of new business. What type, you don't have to name them, but what type of connections have you brought to Widget that were just immense accelerators that really got things? Like what type of those relationships were they?
It's interesting. It's a lot of my background, right? So the automotive sector has been a big piece of that, Steve and his team. But aside from that, the wealth management real estate, cannabis. They're from all industries, and that's what I really love about Widget is it applies to everyone. It applies to every business. It can bolt on to any industry and really just 10x it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So like, let's speak into this. Widget becomes a household name in a couple of years from now. What does that mean in the marketing and advertising world? Like when Widget becomes the new norm, like it just creates a new standard, because it sounds like that's the path that you're on. What does that mean to the marketing advertising industry?
Well, I think what it first does is it's a communication table, right? So we're although we're bolting on to marketing and advertising, but we can bolt on to anything, right? So any image. So I think for us, it's the ability for them to get their message across and to get it one-to-one. I think the future is peer-to-peer.
Yeah.
I think some of the couple of, like a Tesla model, right, has definitely proven out the peer-to-peer type of retail opportunity. I personally think that this is going to do peer-to-peer, which is going to be bigger than anything. So if somebody wants to sell their car, if somebody wants to, make it a doctor's appointment, whatever it is, are able to communicate when they want, how they want, and frictionless. And so, and then they're not getting hounded. They're getting what they want.
How far away are you from that, you feel, from the whole peer-to-peer aspect of this?
We're here.
You're here.
We're here. We've launched. We
That's so
launched,
exciting.
and it's just rolling. It's exciting. We, a good example that I like to talk about too, just from the frictionless, and then where do we see it going? Simple things like if every image, okay, let's use a vehicle because we're in the auto industry. If every image has Widget on it, right? How big could that actually be in so many areas, not just automotive, right? You think about the DMV. Think about for the police department to be able to track vehicles. You'll know exactly where and what is going on with that vehicle, to the point of you won't have to bring it in. I mean, it's just such a disruptor. And
so I've always wondered this, right? So when you have a solution that solves so many challenges and it's really relevant for everyone, how did you find your starting point?
So Al is really the one. He has been in 9 startups, or did 9 startups himself, and IPO'd a few companies. And so for him, it just always kept coming back to the communication platform, and that everything he was doing was in communications, but how do we make it frictionless? Yeah. And so for him and for us now being part of it is just how do we keep it frictionless? How do we keep moving forward in this ever-changing industry and be relevant and solve a need? And what is that need,
That's awesome. So tell me,
I was going to say, for me, it's, what I try to solve for what keeps me up at night, right? If something keeps me up at night and it doesn't seem right to me, I have to find a better way. I have to find a better path. What we knew was, again, as yourself, as a consumer, you probably can't stand sending 5 emails out and not getting any answers. You probably can't stand, texting with somebody who then starts texting you, incessantly with, stuff you're not looking for, right? Typically in communication, most businesses never answer the question. This answers the question. It's in the image. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at this truck. Think about this. They're looking at this meal. They're looking at this General Chow's chicken, right, dish, and it looks phenomenal. But you don't know what their hours are, and all of a sudden that image is communicating with you and saying to you, we're open now, we have an early bird special, we just, whatever it is, we just won an award. It's the ability to articulate all the best parts of the business through that image, which is pretty powerful.
It's so powerful. Collect your thoughts for a moment. I want you to speak directly to the NASDAQ audience with closing thoughts, but I want you to realize right now, I brought these 2 entrepreneurs here because these are true innovators. These are people that said, I'm done with the status quo. I'm done with it. And they have a team supporting this wonderful vision and moonshot. And what excites me most is they're in full-out execution mode. Like, they're doing it. They're not talking about it. But this is what innovation looks like. This is what innovation looks like, where there's status quo, and then entrepreneurs say, we're disrupting it. We're creating an entirely new standard. And that's what Widget is. So speak to the NASDAQ audience. What would you like to share in closing thoughts?
I would just say that if you're looking for something that is going to help your business get to the next level, Widget can help you do that. You can check us out at widget.co. And we appreciate being on here and for your time.
I would say for me, it's, Widget's going to become a verb, a household name.
Yep.
And, at the end of the day, as it allows you to do business the way you want to do business or communicate the way you want to communicate, you're going to never do it any other way. And so that's the exciting thing for us.
It's awesome. I appreciate our friendship. I highly endorse everybody checking out this platform, checking and finding some way to support. Whether you support because you use it or you introduce it to somebody or maybe you reach out to learn more about the investment opportunity, this is innovation. It's innovation that's happening. So they've already crossed that chasm of extreme risk because they're doing it. They've built it. They have 2 teams working around the clock to just stay ahead, to be on that bleeding edge at all times. And this, like I said, is what innovation looks like. We appreciate you for watching this episode, and we'll see you on the next show. Bye for now.